Welcome to another series of NJAPM webinars. Today we're going to be talking with Donna Miller. Donna is president and founder of C3 Workplace. That's the company that NJAPM uses for its management company. She's an entrepreneur, speaker, and an educator. She and her team at C3 Workplace have helped thousands of entrepreneurs to start and grow their businesses. Having built her organization into a company that runs without her day-to-day involvement, she brings tactical know-how to each presentation. Welcome, Donna.
Why, thank you, Carl. I am happy to be here with you and the members of the NJAPM and have a conversation that hopefully helps people to move their practice forward.
Okay, as a way of starting, Donna, I don't do any social media.
What?
Exactly. So I don't do any of it. And in fact, once my wife sent me a friend request and said I didn't want to be her friend online because I live with her all the time. So why did I want to do that? She does it because she wants to keep track of her grandchildren, our grandchildren. And so I don't know a lot about this. But so when I went online to do a little research, I looked for how many social media platforms there are. One list had 75. We had a list of the top 20. When you think of social media, when you're going to talk today, what are you talking about with respect to platforms?
Well, first of all, social media is a great way to keep in touch with people, and I have to say that is a great aspect of social media. But when we talk about using social media to build a practice or build a business, I think you have to take a couple of steps backwards. And I want everyone to know that if you hover around probably the bottom of your screen, there is a chat window. And I would like to ask all of you, I see we've got a nice crowd on the webinar here. So jump into that chat window, and while I'm kind of taking the step backwards, I would love for each of you to share with me what platforms you're currently on or what platforms you would like information about. And if I can answer those questions, I will. And after Carl and I chat for a little while, we will open this up to Q&A. We'll answer specific questions, but the chat window will be my way to ask you questions. So my question for all of you now is, what platforms are you on? And Carl, I had no idea there were 57 social media platforms, but actually it kind of doesn't surprise me. I think the step backwards that you have to take is social media is part of an overall marketing strategy. And marketing strategies don't have to be terribly complex, but we do want people to have a plan as to what they're going to do. And a marketing plan, we'll keep it a little easier, a marketing plan is multifaceted, so it has some variety, it has consistency, right? You have to, whatever you do, we all know you have to do it consistently to get any results. And you have to measure results because obviously we're all here to make the world a better place, but we want to make a profit as we do it. So the step backwards is really to look at a more of a marketing plan. And one of the most important things about a marketing plan when we talk about what platform should I use, and the response we're getting is we've got people on Facebook, LinkedIn, and we'll get to all that. The thing that I want to focus on as far as a marketing plan goes is you have to get very clear on who your target market is. And knowing what I know about mediators, you and all professional service businesses, which is where I live. I'm not a consumer marketer, so I have to admit I'm not going to be able to help people with that. I am a business-to-business professional and creative service firm consultant. And what I know for sure is all of us wish we had more time in the day. So it's really important that we get clear on who we are trying to reach. Your end consumer will have demographics, facts, who, what, where, when, why. They will have psychographics, their hopes, dreams, and their fears. and they will have events that might drive a need for your service. At the intersection of those three areas is where the money lies. And you will have that information not only for the people who need your mediation service, but where I believe the best use of your time is if you can ratchet it up to the referral level. What are the demographics, psychographics, and events that would drive someone to refer to you? So I think for professional service firms who are trying to decide, what should I do? I always encourage you to work on driving referral sources, and that means building your centers of influence. And your centers of influence are the people who get what you do, probably do something complementary, and can send streams of referrals your way. So before we can even talk about what social media platforms are you going to use, it's really important to get clear on who is going to use your services and who is going to refer your services. So, of all the social media platforms that are out there, and our audience seems to agree, most people are using Facebook and LinkedIn. So, I think that that might be part of your strategy. And Carl, as we were preparing for this call, we talked about social media as part of the strategy of content marketing. Um, and you talked to me a little bit about blogging. You said, Carl, what was it you said about blogging when we
Well,
were?
I said about 10 years ago, it was in vogue that everyone had to blog. And if you didn't blog, um, you were sort of doomed in your business. And everyone started blogging.
Mhm,
And it was my impression that after a while, people found that it was really hard to do on a
mhm,
consistent basis.
mhm.
Tried doing it every other week or maybe every week, ran
Right,
out of ideas to do it, then
right.
did it every month, then every 6 months. And then it became, well, gee, if your newest blog is 6 months old, that wasn't very good. And it's my impression that very few, not that many people continuously blog anymore.
Okay. So great. So there's another question for all of you attendees. Chime into that chat window and let us know how many of you are blogging. Um, so what I'm finding more and more is the conversation is not only about social media, but it is about content marketing, because the social media sites are one of the places you distribute content, but there's other places as well. So I'm going to come back to which platforms do I pick. And Carl, you and I talked also about, who's on what platform. So why you would pick a platform would be based on the demographics of that platform. Your audience is using Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram. So Facebook, in my understanding, and again, everyone, for the sake of this conversation, I'm only ever sharing my own knowledge, which is based on how I work with other people and what I've done with my company. I find that Facebook is for people who are typically 40 and over. Um, we use Facebook for events. We find if you're having an event, Facebook works great because it does give you the vehicle to post an event. You can invite people. But we do find that most of our professional work is happening on LinkedIn. So those, if I was a mediator, those are the two platforms I would be focusing on. I think those are the platforms that will give you the greatest bang for your buck. And I think it's mostly LinkedIn. And I see we have one person who said they did blog for a while and they got busy and ran out of ideas. You called that one, Carl.
Uh,
Well,
so let me come back to something you
sure.
said. So you've talked about social, Facebook and LinkedIn. Are you thinking of Facebook as more for the client end, the eventual clients,
Yes.
the LinkedIn more
Yes.
for the referrers?
Yes. I
Oh,
think exactly. I think Thank you for clarifying that. I think your Facebook is more consumer driven. And again, ultimately, our clients are our consumers, and I think LinkedIn is going to be both, but LinkedIn is definitely going to be your better place to drive referrals and to position yourself as a thought leader.
Okay, let's talk about Facebook for a minute.
Sure.
Uh, my grandchildren are from the ages of 19 to 25. There's one younger. Uh, they don't use Facebook anymore. Uh, but then again, they're not getting married and they're obviously not getting divorced. So I think you said Facebook is more targeted audience of like 40 plus.
I think Facebook is it might be younger than 40, but I don't think you're seeing a lot of millennials on Facebook. I think the new Facebook for millennials is probably Instagram.
Okay.
And obviously, the really young people are using Snapchat. Um, and based on your marketing strategy, and this is something we talked about too, Carl, um, C3 Workplace as an organization, we have a presence on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram. But depending upon what your goals are and who your target market are, you'll kind of right size your effort on different platforms. So you can have a presence without putting a lot of effort into it. Whether it's Instagram or Twitter, you can use a tool like Hootsuite to set up posts in one shot. You can set up easy posts for, I don't know, 30, 90 days in advance. The thing with social media is if you're going to truly be working a platform, it's not just about posting. It's about engagement. It's about commenting on the other people's posts. It's about sharing other people's posts. It's about monitoring groups that are populated with those people who can drive you business. So you have to decide which platforms, whether you do that internally or whether you work with someone outside your company, your practice, but you have to decide how to prioritize the platforms.
Okay.
So if your grandchildren are not on Facebook, you have to go back again. Are they the people who are going to be referring business to me? Or are they not even my target market? And if
I don't think the target market because as we all know, people are getting married later.
right.
If you get married later, you're not getting divorced until later after that,
Right.
et cetera. And it tends, I think that the target audience is much older. Maybe it's the 50s and 60s, obviously 40s as well, but it's more in that age group.
And it's also going to be, who do you personally connect with? I don't know how many mediators there are in the country, but hiring a mediator or hiring any professional service firm is a very personal connection. So it's likely that the people who hire me are going to be probably closer to my age, probably doing something similar to what I do. So as your membership diversifies age-wise, you will see this on different platforms.
Okay. Now, LinkedIn, that was the other one. You said that's more for sort of refers business.
Right.
Um, and the kind of refers that I think about is that on the divorce side are attorneys. Attorneys do refer mental health professionals, accountants, just other business people who are some way related to the divorce field. Maybe it's real estate agents who know that people are getting divorced, et cetera. So that's, I think, sort of that group. How do we target them?
Great question. And I'm going to come back to the same thing I said at the beginning. Target market, how much time are you going to spend, how are you going to do this? But I believe you all need to revisit content as a strategy. And as much as it seems like a time consuming something, you can outsource it. There are so many people now who can write blogs for you. So you have to, decide if this is going to be part of your strategy, what type of resources. So that's also part of a marketing plan. If I want to measure return, I have to measure investment too. So is your investment going to be time? Is your investment going to be dollars? And I'll give you a couple of things that I think you can use to stretch that. So I think you have to come back to content. And I think, you asked me when we were preparing, Carl, how often should you post? I believe you should write a post, blog, whatever you want to call it. So to me, a blog is at least 3 paragraphs. It gives the person one problem they can, one perspective of a problem that you've addressed. So it doesn't have to be 750 words. It doesn't have to be 1,000 words. I think 250 words is probably the minimum, but 250 to 500 is probably where you should be for a blog post. Because the other thing is, the idea of posting content is to engage your audience and drive traffic back to your website, where the whole story is on your website. Your website presents you to the world. It talks about your services. It talks about your background. So all this posting that you're doing should be linking back to your website. So if you do a blog post, the social media post, whether it's Facebook or LinkedIn, is a bit of a teaser that links back to your website. Now they can read the full blog, and you get to build some statistics on engagement. You can see who clicked. So the little things that you do add up to allow you to measure return and to get a sense of what your audience is liking. So LinkedIn, you can, and someone's asking, and this I'm sure would have come up at some point or another, so I'll talk about the paid LinkedIn in a minute. So I think the beauty of LinkedIn for what we do as professionals is it is full of all professionals, people who are serious about their business. And you have the opportunity to publish articles. When you publish an article, it automatically shows up in the feed of the people you're connected to. That's an advantage of posting an article versus just an update. So I'll just repeat that. Article shows up in everybody's feed. Update, not so much. They have to be scrolling through. So you can write a blog, say you write a 500-word blog that resides on your website, and you put a teaser in a social media post, they link back to your website, they're getting all your good information. You can take that blog post and you can then break that central idea into 3, 4, 5, 6 bullet points that you can use as posts on the other sites that you're not spending a whole lot of time on because you don't have time to do everything. So that content, the purpose of content and the beauty of content is you can cross-purpose that content. And the other thing, Carl, we talked about before we opened up is I still very much believe in email marketing. So you can also be sending that blog post out as part of a regular email marketing campaign. Again, teaser in the email, linking back to the website. This allows you to start to create analytics around what people are really engaged with. And one of our participants said they got busy and ran out of blogging ideas. Got 2 things for you there. Every week, you solve somebody's problem. That's a blog. You can make it anonymous. You don't have to break anyone's confidentiality. But if we're doing what we're meant to do in our professional careers, every week we solve somebody's problem. And if we're going to blog once a month, it shouldn't be that hard to come up with something that we did that was positive that we can share with the world. The best thing to blog about are the questions you get asked all the time, because clearly that's content that matters to people. Now, the other really important part of blogging is if part of your marketing plan is to drive referrals, which, by the way, it should be. And if driving referrals means that you're looking to build a center of influence, 5, 10 people, and it's, you're not going to get this right first time out. You're going to have to think about who makes a good center of influence and why, what do I need from them, and what can I do in return for them? So it has to be a win-win-win. So if you're going to create a strategy of building centers of influence, to me, one of the best things is get content from them. And now, if you do that once a month and you write a blog once a month, you just doubled the amount of content that you're putting out there. And P.S., there might be times you didn't write a blog and you're only using your center of influence blog. So that allows you to expand your reach. So I think blogging is very manageable if you keep it in the context of what you're trying to do. And if you keep it right-sized, appropriate to your target market, and appropriate to what you're trying to accomplish. So I still see blogging as a cornerstone of a social media or a content strategy. So to me, social media is part of the conversation, but the overall conversation is really about thought leadership and building center of influence, of which you can do with social media.
So the blog is really your overall content, and you take bits and pieces of that content and put it in other places or get it referred back to your blog.
Absolutely.
That's
and
what,
yes, that is what I'm saying. And there was a question about LinkedIn Premium. Should I save that to the Q&A, or do you want? Okay.
Yeah.
I'll answer the LinkedIn Premium question at Q&A because it's a great question. Yes. So the point of the blogging is to build content, to become a thought leader. But the other thing about LinkedIn is when you figure out who your target market is and who your potential centers of influence are, the great thing about LinkedIn are groups. Find groups. This is where some of your time investment or outsource investment will be. You need to research a couple of groups that you can post in regularly or answer other people's questions in regularly to position yourself as a thought leader and to drive those centers of influence. So the groups on LinkedIn are very important. There are many of them. And I have to honestly say, just like, getting your centers of influence right straight out of the gate may not happen, I would be shocked if you picked the right groups straight out of the gate. And the right groups are not the groups filled with a whole lot of mediators. The right groups are filled with the other attorneys who can refer business to you? Or is it the who is in front of a divorce happening? Is it the mental health professionals? Are there mental health professionals that are focusing on families and divorce? Or are they focusing on, children, which unfortunately I have to imagine leads to divorce and the need for mediation? So again, you have to think a little bit outside the box to get in the box.
so what's going across my mind here is, this sounds like a lot of work. It sounds like it costs money. Now,
It does.
how are we going to do this if it takes so much time? What are we talking about in terms of how much time should I be devoting to this? And what's realistic in terms of spending to make something effective?
It's a good question, Carl, and there is no one answer. What I will say is, it depends on where you're at in building your practice. The earlier on you are in building your practice, the more time you spend on marketing. I mean, that's just kind of business 101. The earlier on you are in your practice, the more time you will spend, and you will have to budget more dollars because you're building the platform. I think that each person has to decide. I think the question, I'm not sure if the question, how much time should I spend, is the right question. I wonder if the right question is, how do I prioritize my marketing activities? And so when I work with people helping them to grow their practice, we always work on a behavior plan. So because the behavior, posting a blog, going to a networking event, making an introduction, having a speaking engagement, those are the lead measures. For the lag measure, which is, did I get a new client? Am I putting more money in my bank account? So I think you have to look at your overall practice and decide, at this point in time, I'm willing to invest X dollars, X hours on marketing, and then prioritize what makes the best use of that time. As far as me and what I do, you know, as an organization, I have people who help me. Kelly is amazing. Jen helps me. I do events, I do speaking. But I will tell you this, it took me a while to build my platform. And now the activities that I do are very different than what I did 5 years ago. But when I was first building my platform, and if that's where you're at with content and social media, I would suggest that you budget 5 hours a week to working on your content strategy. So I don't know if I just lost half the audience, but 5 hours a week is 1 hour a day. And here's how I recommend you break that down. Some of that has to be to create content, and I would say it's half and half. Create content, engage with your audience. And you can't skip the engagement part, because if you think writing blogs, putting them on your website, and posting them via social media is going to bring you business, it's not. There's so much content out there. The engagement is equally important, is bringing value to what other people are saying. You know, it's the old Maya Angelou saying, people won't remember what you did, but they'll remember how you made them feel. So the engagement is about creating a connection online. So if I was tied to a number, I would say 5 hours a week. And when we get to Q&A, I will tell you how I believe the paid version of LinkedIn, if that's a platform you choose to use, is one of the ways you can leverage your time. And that's always what I talk to people about, is make sure everything you're doing is leveraging everything you're doing. And that's where cross-purposing content comes in.
Well, surprisingly, the people I have done webinars with on the divorce mediation side who are successful have spent a lot of time at it. A lot of time, especially in their early days, and it seems to work. So I guess there's no short way around being successful.
Well, I mean, that's the truth is, I think the truth is, the most challenging part I see today with professionals trying to build their practice or build their businesses, I call it the shiny object syndrome. There's 852,000 things you can do. I mean, honestly, I had no idea there were 57 social media platforms. That's a fact I'm not sure I needed to know, because it's like, it just makes my head spin. So the truth is, there's always more to do than time in the day. So it's about prioritizing. It's about testing and measuring. It's about consistency. And more than anything, it's about playing the long game. This is not a one and done. It's not.
So I
But
can't do this for 2 months and it's over.
no,
I
it
can
is a
do,
long-term strategy. And if content is part of your strategy, you know, maybe part of your year-end planning is looking at the calendar. There are events that happen. I mean, I know divorce is probably bigger in January than it is in November. You know, they've made it through the holidays. I have a divorce attorney that her slogan in January is, I can help you lose 200 pounds. You know, the spouse you don't want anymore. So, you know, you can look at it over the year and spread it out to make it appropriate to the events. Remember, I talked about demographic, psychographics, events. So again, you try and tweak everything just a little bit to get more out of it.
so I've done a bunch of things now. I've gotten my blog. I hated it, but I've done it. I've done it consistently. I've done LinkedIn and I've done Facebook. how do I know it's working? And as opposed to just the businesses coming in because of something else.
That's a great question. And I'd like to say that there's a hard and fast answer. And Kelly, if she's on this webinar, knows how many times I've asked, do we really have to do all of this? Because it takes, they used to say it took 7 to 10 touches to create a conversion. And a conversion may not even be a client. A conversion is they're actually willing to talk to you. I believe that that number is much larger. I believe the marketers are wrong. I believe it's in the at least double digits of how many touches it takes to create a conversion. But here's some of the things you want to watch as you do this. You want to, if you're doing email marketing, you want to watch your open and your click rate. Is it going up? Is it going down? That's data. Every time you get a new person who calls you, who may want to work with you, the first thing is thank you for calling. The second question is how did you hear about me? You have got to plot that information because you think you know where your business is coming from, and you might, but you could be wrong, and it could be a huge missed opportunity if you're wrong. So how you know it's successful is overall the practice is growing. Your analytics are moving in the right direction, and your analytics could be your email analytics, they could be your website analytics, they could be your Facebook analytics, they could be your LinkedIn connections and how much engagement you're getting. And when you start posting on other things, people reach out to connect with you, and then they start posting with you. So there is no one answer, but there are analytics and data that can help you measure. But do not miss the low-tech opportunity of asking every single person how they heard about you. And if they say online, that's great. Do you happen to remember, was it a particular platform? Was it a particular website? Go a little deeper. And I will tell you this, those questions get harder to ask at the end of the conversation than at the beginning of the conversation. So be sure to ask those questions in the beginning of your conversation.
You know, we started the divorce mediation training at NJAPM in 2005. And back then it was a hard sell to get people to get websites. Everyone had to get a website. Now I'm sure today almost everyone either has a website or will be getting one shortly after becoming a mediator. I'm not sure a lot of people go look at their analytics. How difficult is that?
It's not. It's a free, anybody who has a website, your website company, even if you did a GoDaddy, it's a free piece of code, and then you sign up at Google and you just log into Google and it shows you everything. It's free.
So if you don't do that, you're really missing a lot.
Everything has analytics now, because I do believe that is also how these larger companies make their money, by selling this data. So whatever you think is private, it's probably not. And that data is all there for you too. Now, what we do here is we've created a spreadsheet, and there are programs that do this, but they were kind of expensive and I wanted easy. So we created a spreadsheet, and each month they track 6 or 7 points of data so that we as a company can see it. I'm a visual person and I like the short version of everything. So we've tracked it, and we see, we know we have seasons that go up and down. So it's out there for free. We just chose to create a consolidation tool so we could see it. And we do that for our clients as well, so we could see it in one spot.
Okay, so maybe at this point we can ask for people to submit questions. If you go down to the bottom of your screen with your pointer, you'll see a Q&A function. Please feel free to
and
whatever question you want in right now.
And while your audience is putting in their questions, I'm going to address a question that came up in the chat window, which was, do you need to be a premium member of LinkedIn to use it? No, 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 no. LinkedIn, the thing that you will use on LinkedIn before you get to premium is you will determine what groups you want to be in. You will make sure that your profile is up to date and accurate, and that your tagline on your profile is meaningful. Not to you, to your circle of influence people. So again, it's always what's in it for them, not what's in it for you. So, you know, make sure your LinkedIn profile is current and up to date and as complete as possible. So you'll make sure your profile is good. You'll explore groups. You will post those articles I mentioned. You can post articles. You can do updates. You can engage with other people. So there is a lot you can do with LinkedIn before you go to a paid version. The question just came up, what is a tagline? When you go to LinkedIn, underneath your name, and I'm just going to open LinkedIn so I can do this. There is a place for you to write a little something about yourself, and whatever you write there, make it applicable to your target audience. So my tagline currently says, which I like to change, my tagline currently says entrepreneur, connector, speaker, small business expert, and educator, helping businesses to start and grow. That's what it says. That's what people are going to see when they pull me up. I also just realized I have a really old picture. You want to make sure that your picture is up to date. So you can absolutely use the free version of LinkedIn very effectively for quite some time. The reason I encourage people when they're ready, and it's not for everyone, the reason I use a paid version of LinkedIn is because it allows me to create lead lists. I can search for a particular criteria and I can create a lead list. Say, recently I was looking for speakers and I created a lead list of my connections who had, I don't know, over 10,000 connections and blah, blah, blah. So what happens is the lead list allows me to look at my news feed in that very targeted way. So when I talk about engagement in Sales Navigator, which is the paid version of LinkedIn, the reason I love it is because I can get a really micro view of just the people I've identified, allowing my engagement time to take much less time. Because when I go onto LinkedIn regular, I have like 3,000 connections. My feed is, I could never keep up with my feed. So instead, I'm looking at my feed in my micro world of LinkedIn Sales Navigator. That's the main reason I use it. The other reason people use it is because you can message people that you aren't connected to. They have to accept the message. So there are some additional tools that you can use in Sales Navigator that are not available in the free version. But the free version is very effective.
How much is Sales Navigator?
That is a great question, and let me Google that. I want to say around $60 a month. How much is LinkedIn? I think it's about $75 a month. Hold on. LinkedIn Sales Navigator. $80 a month.
So if you're just starting out,
Don't do it.
don't do
If you're
it.
just starting out, don't do it.
So go ahead.
Yeah, I would not do it until you get to the point where you've identified your groups, you identified how you're going to use LinkedIn, you've got some consistent messaging going. To me, Sales Navigator is great for outreach. So I can do a search of business owners of website companies. And if I want to send a message, if I want to reach out to business owners of website companies, I can do it in a very microcosm way in Sales Navigator. Much harder to do that in the free version. But the free, okay, so I'm in business 25 years. I think we're a marketing machine as a company, and that certainly is probably more so in the last 8 years since we rebranded to C3 Workplace. I only upgraded to LinkedIn Sales Navigator last year.
Okay. We have a question from Anshu Jasani. How can you leverage your NJAPM membership in your social media strategy?
That's a great question. I think that anyone who's looking to hire anyone is impressed with wants to see people who are connected professionally in their organization. So I think proud member of is a good way to boost your credibility. And I don't know, Carl, if there are other ways you can, if I think NJAPM is providing referrals out to people, correct? People go to the website and
Yes.
find medias. So it's happening on the outbound. So you want to link to credible websites, which can ultimately create links back to you. I hope that helped with the question. Carl, would you add anything to that?
Excuse me?
Would you add anything to that question?
No, I think that's good. Now, most of what we've been talking about, I think, applies really to divorce mediation, especially. Civil mediation it's a much different situation. On divorce, clients are often finding us before they go to attorneys. Sometimes they're getting referred by non-attorneys, but by attorneys. Most of the civil business is coming through the courts. Not all of it, but a lot of it. And our civil mediator members are having a bigger problem getting business directly. Is this something that social media can help with? Or do you just need more information?
Okay. Okay, that's a really, really good question. And I've been thinking about it since we've been preparing for this. The real answer is I don't know. But if I was a civil mediator, I would be focusing on that event piece of what drives business. So I would be thinking, so when I think civil litigation, I guess I'm thinking of, for me, and you tell me if there's more, I'm thinking of like partner disputes. Give me some examples of civil litigation.
Construction dispute, breach of contract, probably the largest group.
Okay, breach of contract. Okay.
Breach of a contract.
Okay, so
could be labor matter.
Labor. Okay, so what I would start with is, and this may not be LinkedIn, but it could be LinkedIn. There might be groups around some of these things. There might be groups around construction. There might be groups around, the thing I think about of civil litigation is I think of M&A work, mergers and acquisition, somebody buying somebody, businesses bought and sold. I think that is a potential event. I don't know, and now I'm kind of putting my marketing thinking hat on, but if you could identify some of those events that drive a need, instead of waiting for the court to refer something, you might be able to participate in the conversation in a group, and that would definitely be LinkedIn. I don't think it would be Facebook. By the time it hits Facebook, it's news.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what you're looking for in that case is, what are the symptoms of the event? Right? So what are the symptoms of the event? Is it, mergers? Is it where jobs are going to become redundant? That's going to result in a lot of wrongful termination. I don't know. So I think the challenge there is to go from the event to what are the symptoms that would create the event, and can we follow the symptoms? And you might follow the symptoms on LinkedIn in groups of people who are engaged in that activity. But it could also be, I had I'm going to use this as a question, as an example. I was interviewing someone about search engine optimization. Search engine optimization is how Google ranks your website, blah, 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 which anyway, blogging is really good for. But I said to her, being a search engine optimization expert is like, I don't know, it's like being a neurosurgeon. It's constantly changing. How do you possibly keep up? And she said she has set up a Google alert, which I'll explain in a second, for when patents are filed for particular technologies. It's like, holy moly, that's brilliant. So a Google alert, and again, you can Google it. What is a Google alert? It's free. You could set up a Google alert on a person, a phrase, a scenario, and anytime that appears on the internet, you get an email. So I'm saying all that to say, can you figure out what the symptoms are? If you can figure out what the symptoms are that drive the need for civil litigation, I think you might be able to get in front of it. And ultimately, it might be something you can do on LinkedIn. I'm honestly not 100% sure.
Google Alert might also be a good way of getting information or content for your blog.
Absolutely. And, you know, that's another thing. I mean, the post that you do could be, hey, I read this article on Entrepreneur Magazine. Here you go. And here's what I think about it. There's another blog. There is a gazillion ways to blog. It doesn't have to be original, highly curated content.
Okay. We have a chat comment. I don't know if you can see it.
How about auxiliary search programs such as Leonard? Does LinkedIn still offer a 1-month trial? I don't know, and I don't know. Sorry.
Okay. Maybe Diana Longo, who put in that comment.
Yes, if anyone else
tell
knows,
us something
I mean, I'm
about
happy to research it, but I mean, my question would be, I would imagine LinkedIn does offer a free 1-month trial, but again, don't do it unless you're there.
Okay.
And I will say, I did it 3 years ago, paid for it like a gym membership that I didn't use for at least 6 months before I canceled it.
Okay, Diana, what is Leonard?
I'm going to Google that.
Type it in. Well,
Let's see. I'm not finding it.
okay.
Sorry.
So one last call for questions. Anything on the chat?
Did we answer the questions?
I think we've answered.
Okay.
You think?
Okay. So one thing I just want to come back and I'll summarize, and if we get another question, great. If not, don't. So the other thing about, I'm in the process of redoing my website. Painful, expensive, and time consuming. But I'm in business, I have to, right? So one of the things we did in getting our website done was we hired a company to research our keywords. Because I thought, if I'm building a new website, I'm going to make sure I'm using the right keywords, which was, again, painful, expensive, and time consuming. However, he presented all his findings, which was great and very helpful, and it was the right money to spend. You know, it's building your house on concrete, not sand. It's the right thing. You know, you try and do things in a certain way. And he was talking about blogging and the importance of blogging in driving organic traffic to your website. And what you also need to understand is, well, first of all, Carl said some of you may have a website. I would contend that you shouldn't be in business without a website unless you've developed such great streams of referrals that you don't need a website. But if you're marketing, you need a website. So he was saying that so part of everything you're doing, whether it's blogging, whether it's Facebook, whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's webinars or speaking engagements or volunteering on the board of the organizations that you belong to, all of that is ultimately building your content and your platform to drive traffic to your website. And your website should always have a call to action. It could be, you know, click here to book a consult or a call or fill out this form or whatever it is. Your website should be capturing information. So search engine optimization is all the things you do on your website and externally to drive that information. And those keywords are important. But he said that we should be writing blogs that are at least 1,000 words, at least once a week, at exactly the same time every week. And I thought to myself, well, good for you if you can get that done, because there is no way that's happening for me. So the point is, what I am doing is strategic, it's cross-purposed, and it's using the right keywords. So, you know, whenever you talk to professionals, I think sometimes what they tell you is a little bit overwhelming. And what I want to encourage each of you to do is to have a plan. Have a plan. It doesn't have to be fancy, but it has to be a plan that talks about what it is you're going to do, how it is you're going to do, how it is you're going to do it, and how you're going to measure return. And the beginning of that plan is, who is my target market? And I believe for all of you, it really is about driving streams of referrals. It's not about focusing your time on the consumer. You're going to do that. You're going to do that naturally. But if you're going to work on your outbound and your offensive marketing, I want to encourage you to make that around referrals. And I want you to track data on where your business is coming from, because you could be right or you could be missing an opportunity.
Okay, one last thing from Suzanne English. Can you use a free or inexpensive website for your business?
You know, I'm seeing a lot of websites that are one page. I think that's fine. I don't think you have to spend a lot of money on a website. I think what a website needs for all of you is who I am, what I do, and I would encourage you to have a blog page, and you'll get, you know, other people to post on your blog, and how to reach me. That's it. And many of those, even though that seems like 4 pages, now what's happening is they're using what's called anchors. So instead of actually clicking to a page, it's what's called an anchor that just takes you further down on the one page. So there are some very inexpensive websites that you can do. When I say inexpensive, I think if you write the copy yourself, and you have a good sense of what you want done, I think, and people are probably going to kill me for this, but I think you can get a website done for less than $2,000.
Okay.
I don't think you have to spend a lot of money.
Donna, I want to thank you very much. It was really fun.
You're welcome.
Informative,
You're
and
welcome.
it was a great job.
Yeah, and if anybody needs to reach me, I am Donna at c3workplace.com. And those of you who know me know that I try to make myself very available. If you get onto LinkedIn a week from now and have a question, feel free to shoot me an email, and I will do my best to respond if I know the answer. But I'm sure, as you already realize, I don't try to pretend that I know everything, and neither should you. Focus on what you can do well.
Thank you, and thanks for everyone who participated.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.